the audit done. One of the first things I would try to do as a county commissioner would be to find a way to bring in the state auditor and perform a performance audit, because those guys go all over the place and they already know what the best practices are. You don't have to reinvent the wheel. Maybe somebody in Mansfield invented that wheel. We're going to find out what works and what doesn't. One of the biggest questions that in my 18 years of elected experience I have noticed never gets answered. It's not how are we going to make the government do this, it's ought the government to be doing this? For me, that is the drop-dead first question. Should we even be in the business of X, Y, or Z? Once we've answered that question, then we can figure out how to make it so that it runs efficiently and appropriately.
That's a lot to answer in a minute, but I'll do my best. I'll go back in history, and Dick will remember this. I went to Perry, and Perry schools before the Perry nuclear power plant dollars were available. It was rough back then. But when the money came in, what did the state do? They took half the money. They forced Perry schools to build that campus. It wasn't really what they wanted to do, but they had to do it in order to keep the money because the people governing on high were taking the money. We've all seen where time and again the Ohio State Supreme Court has ruled our school funding system is indeed unconstitutional. But nobody's taking the initiative to fix it. Our state legislature, they sit on their hands. It's the third rail of politics. Nobody wants to be the one to say what's fair because it's something they don't want to deal with. Our local government funds have in fact been cut. Why? Because the state is indeed balancing the state budget on the backs of local communities. Those dollars that normally would be coming back to us, the local officials, so that we can do good for our local community and our people, it's been taken away from us. Let's talk about how I would change things. I talk to the subject matter experts. Interesting term, right? Those are the employees. The fact of the matter is the people who are actually doing the daily work, they don't have a voice. It's middle management and above. Every time in business, when that practice goes into effect, that company goes down. If you do not listen to your employees who have the good ideas, who have the practical ideas, and I'm not talking about a suggestion box. Those days are long gone. But the reality is, listen to the people who can help with the efficiencies and who are not going to be penalized because their boss said, sit here and idle this plow truck because you weren't assigned to do anything. You do the last job you were told. I believe in some regard that's called malicious obedience, but in many cases what it boils down to is you have employees who are doing exactly what they're told because there is no management, no guidance, if you will. Let's talk about inclusion, not exclusion. We need to get buy-in from the community. Have people come and point things out and give them a fair hearing. See what can be done to make improvements and then implement them. Find a way. And yes, best business practices. Find out what works in other places, bring that information home, put it to work here. If it works, great. If it doesn't work, see if you can tweak it. If it flat out doesn't work, admit it and move on. It's that simple. Thank you.
Thank you. Bob Murphy, Precinct Committeeman, Westbrook, Republican, Central Committee, Republican Party. I have a question. Ran against Dan Troy. Since then, they brought down the cost of running this county $6 million out there, okay? Why they were using that $6 million, I don't know. Or where they were using it, we don't know. In the meantime, they're down $6 million on the operating unit, okay? Now, when I look at this sales tax, assuming it's going to go through, and it's a big problem how it's going to go through, but anyways, let's assume it's going to go through. The way I look at the figures, being from Westbrook, we're going to come up $6 million, what we call in the business world, in a profit. We're going to have $6 million more dollars. They had, you know, they don't have, and it's going to come in from sales every year. But I want to ask you, all four of you, you guys are all great, really proud. Dale was right. Dale was right. How are you going to spend that $6 million? In other words, you're going to have a $6 million surplus. Two of you are going to be out there, and that commissioner's table, sit with them, you know, that would, you know, or I hope you're all out there. But anyways, how are you going to spend that extra $6 million? Are they going to go back to the way things were, hire everybody back again, and the whole thing goes, you know, down the drain? Or what are we going to do with that extra $6 million? Something to think about.
Okay, we'll start with Dick. Well, the first thing is, you know, that 6 million, if it's assuming that, you know, this thing doesn't go to a referendum,
Right, assuming it goes through.
that it's going to be there. It needs to be earmarked. It's one of the big problems I have right now. They did not earmark any of this money with this new sales tax. Now, I'm very proud of our sheriff department. I think our sheriff department is something that's, you know, like our military. You know, you don't take it, you build it up, and you don't tear it down to where it can't, you know, do any good for anybody. It's like our backup to every other agency, enforcement agency we have in our county. So number one, you know, we need to earmark that money. That money needs to be earmarked so that sheriff doesn't lose, you know, the patrols and everything. I think it really needs to be looked forward to the planning commission, you know, so we have a bright future. That money needs to be earmarked for the future. So many dollars every year goes towards that to plan, so we can bring in businesses and keep everything going forward. You know, and then it comes right back to management. You break it down and you start seeing where the waste is. So maybe we don't need that 6 million. We can give it back. I mean, that's the first thing we have to do. You know, do we really need it? But I think it's very serious that we earmarking, or they'll just put in a general fund and waste it.
Sadly, Bob, I think what's going to happen is that they're going to pass it, and in about July, they're going to start collecting that money. By the time we get in there in January, it's already going to be gone in collective bargaining agreements. Honestly, I think it may be too late by the time we get there, which is part of the reason why I'm so discouraged that they're doing this right now. It would have been so much better to let new people come in and handle it, do these things we've talked about, do those investigations and find those efficiencies. And it's a whole lot easier to run a thing when they got nothing, because that's what, let me just tell you, as a mother of 6 children, and I still do this today, I never carry cash. Because if you have cash, those children will get it. And you can always just say, I can't buy that for you, I don't have any money. It's better to have no money. It's going to be a challenge.
But isn't there another 6 million coming in the year after that?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yes.
we can work with that 6 million.
Yes, what will happen is those unions, and there's 15 of them, are going to line up with their hands out. And if you go to arbitration, they're going to take it. It's going to be tough. I'm sorry, but that's the reality. It's going to be really tough to hang on to it. And I'm kind of discouraged that that's what we're going to be facing when we get in there.
Well, we need to expand upon this, and thank you for bringing it out. We're not talking about 6 million, we're talking about 14 million. These are the real numbers. Then we're talking about the rollback. That's their, and again, this funny math, I apologize, it's what, 5.5 or 8? They were never really clear on that. So the net profit, notice I said profit, because they're kind of, you see, profit's not a dirty word in private business, but government, take only what you need. And that's what the public demands.
If you're saying 14 million.
Absolutely. They were to,
With the rollback, it'll be back down to about 7.
the total brought in from the sales tax will be $14 million, the commissioner's own words.
Yeah, but
They're
there's
gonna
going to be
roll
the
The
back.
rollback, which can be taken away by a simple majority of the commissioners, I might emphasize. All right, they're talking, that's what, 5.5 or 8.5 million, but that 6 million is not a real number. You're looking at about 8.5 million. Again, notice the shell game that's going on. The numbers go up, the numbers go down. The reality is, there has been talk that, okay, we've got infrastructure issues, things are not being maintained. Yes, those should be done. There are concerns as to where these dollars are going to be spent. Nothing is being earmarked, nothing's being guaranteed. And these facts of this rapid expansion of these numbers, which we have to keep our hands on the totals. Let's talk the real totals. Let's not just take their devalued numbers if they want us to look at the smaller. If you look at things in total, we have a serious problem because nobody in any of these hearings has taken the time to say what they're going to be used for. And right now, without a clear understanding of where these dollars are being spent or have been spent, it's really tough to actually answer that question. Where would you spend it? Because the bottom line is we don't know what's being neglected. They admitted for 9 years they've ignored the financial advice of their own people. So what else have they ignored? We don't know until you open this thing up and see just how bad it really is. There's the problem. We don't really know. We the people, let alone us 4 candidates. And by the way, from your lips to God's ears, the 2 of us get in there, thank you. Well, this needs to be addressed. And we have to look at the totals. Don't look at the numbers that are reduced by all these, I don't want to say fuzzy math, but that's what comes to my mind. There is a shell game going on here. Don't be distracted by the right hand while the left hand's getting into your pocket.